In this lesson, we're going to take our user interface that we set up in the previous lesson, and we're going to see how we can change the images based on our game or player state. Okay, so first off, we have our UI object set up to display how our character starts in the game. No key, no dagger, and full health. We're going to be creating a simple script to actually run our whole user interface design here. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So let's create a new script. And this is going to be a C#. We're going to say UI controls. This is going to be the main brain of all our UI elements here. Now, let's apply this script to our canvas, just so it's on something in our game level, and let's open it up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, clean up, close all those other ones, and start up in here. So let's go void start, void update. Okay, here we are. We are in our UI control script and ready to start coding. So first thing we need to do, which is we've never done this before, it's going to be slightly unique. We need to actually add another class that this script can reference to give us access to some more functions. Now, every script starts out with the Unity engine and the using systems.collections. Now, these are two massive libraries of functions that are built into Unity that we can use with our C# scripts. But for something as unique as UI elements, we need to add one more class that it can reference and understand what we're typing. So simply, let's just go like this. Let's go using Unity engine dot UI. This is going to call upon all of the Unity engine built-in user interface functions that we can always access in this script. Okay, so now that we have access to the Unity engine UI elements, let's start coding. So first off, we need to read off a couple of scripts here. So let's say access to scripts variables. I need to say private game state, and we need to read our character state. So let's go player state, and player state. All right, so we need to get access to those two scripts to read when we have the dagger, when we have the key, and our health, and all that kind of fun stuff. But now what other variables do we need? Well, we need to create a variable for each sprite image that we want to replace in our user interface. So let's just go ahead and create a couple of these here. So to call upon an image that we want to replace within our UI visuals here, with this, our dagger, we want to get a variable to store an image to replace when we have a dagger. And we want to create a variable to store an image that when we have the key. And basically we want to create a variable for each image of our health as well. But let's start one thing at a time here. Let's go public and let's say sprite. And we want to say has dagger. Okay, and let's create, let's just go like this. Let's go sprites for UI. Okay, and let's create one more for has key, just to start out here. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and let's go to our start, change it to an awake, and let's just assign these two scripts up here, game state and player state. All right, so now that our script is here, let's make sure this is saved. And let's minimize this, and let's click on our canvas. All right, so let's go, here we go, has dagger. Now we can actually pick and choose the images we want to use to replace these in our script. So for these variables, has dagger, I want it to be my dagger image with it all lit up there nicely. So let's go UI dagger has, and has key. Let's assign UI dagger has key. Perfect. So those are perfectly assigned now. I'm going to save this and get back into my good old script here. Alrighty, this is going really well. Now next we have to move on and create the condition to swap images. So basically all we want to do here is set up when our player state has the dagger, override that current sprite image of the dagger grayed out with the dagger with the color. And we want to do that the same with the key as well. Well, let's just see how this can be done first. All right, so let's go to our update function. Let's create a simple if statement. So if player state dot has dagger, then what do we want to do? We need to override that sprite image. Now, which sprite image are we overriding? We need to override this sprite image here. That is this source image that we assigned to this image component in our canvas there. So first we need to gain access to this. So let's quickly do that here. So let's go back into our script and let's open up our UI control script. And we need a variable to store that UI BG, UI dagger, UI key, all that kind of stuff. So we can replace those images. So let's go like this. Sprites for UI replacements, just so we're more clear. And let's go like this. Sprites for our main UI images in our game. All right, so we need to just gain access to these images so we can replace them. So first off, our first object is UI dagger. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go private. Let's create a variable. This is going to be an image type, image UI dagger. All right, and let's actually go ahead and create one for our key as well. UI key. Okay, awesome. So now we have those, and let's quickly awaken these here. So let's go image access variables for UI elements. All right, so let's assign these. Let's go like this, UI dagger, and let's go equals game object dot find, and I want to find that object which is called UI dagger. Okay, and what are we going to do here? We're going to get component, and this is going to be image. Okay, and now let's quickly go ahead and go UI key, and let's do this, UI key. All right, so now we have those objects and their image components stored in a variable. So now we can actually go ahead and replace them in our if statement if we have the dagger. So if we have the dagger, let's call upon that variable, UI dagger, which is our image component attached to that dagger game object, UI dagger, and now what we need to do is we need to override that sprite. So we're going to say override sprite, and what are we going to override it with? We're going to override it with this has dagger sprite that we created. Has dagger. I'm just going to say end that. And that right there, it's going to take whatever image is on our UI dagger, and it's going to override this source image with that variable that we created, UI dagger has, which is storing that new image that we want to replace it with. So what happens when we don't have the dagger anymore? We need to create our else statement here. So let's go else, else if, to be more specific, we're going to say player state when we don't have has dagger UI dagger dot override sprite equals null. And let me save this out. Okay, and then I'll just comment this out. Controlling our dagger UI image. Okay, and then when we don't have dagger, go back to our original image. So what's happening here is when we have the dagger, UI dagger, our image, is going to be overwritten by that has dagger image with all the color and everything in there to indicate that we have something. And then when we don't have the dagger, it's going to take that overridden, I don't know how to say that, overridden sprite object that we just put here, and it's going to set that to nothing. So basically it's going to be overriding the original image, which is this gray image, with nothing, which just sets it back to the original image. Simple as that. So let's just quickly test this beast out here. So here we go. Now I'm WrapTuck, I don't have a dagger, but now let's watch this. When I collect this and my state changes, I have a dagger, so now it's lit up. That's awesome. So now when I throw it, we're grayed out again. And now when I collect, well, I could do this all day, but you'll see it works just as we want it to. All right, That's awesome. So now we've gone ahead and we've created the first interactivity of our user interface. That's great. I'm just going to stop this. So now let's move on to the next lesson where we're going to go ahead and set up the key and then dig into a little bit more of a bigger system with the health. We're going to finish these two off in the next lesson. So I'll see you there.